Hi, this is Gilbert Gottfried, and this is Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal podcast. I'm here once again with my co-host, Frank Santopadre, and we're once again recording at Nutmeg with our engineer, Frank Verderosa. Our guest this week is someone who Frank and I have admired for many years, and we're thrilled for the opportunity to have him on the podcast. He's one of the busiest, and we mean busiest, and most respected and versatile actors of the last half century, with over 219 film and TV credits. Memorable television appearances include Bonanza, All in the Family, Ironside, The Waltons, The Bob Newhart Show, Amazing Stories, Unsub, co-starring former podcast guest Richard Kind, The X-Files, Ken Burns, The Civil War, Frasier, and Damages, just to name a few. He's also made his mark with unforgettable performances in dozens of movies such as Little Big Man, Serpico, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, What's Up, Doc, Slapshot, Ordinary People, Reds, Straight Time, Blade Runner, The Jerk, Fletch, Back to School, Clean and Sober, and of course, as the double-crossing Private Eye, Lauren Visser in the Coen Brothers' Blood Simple, for which he was awarded the Independent Spirit Award for Best Actor. Over the course of a 6-decade career, he shared the screen with, and often stolen scenes from, heavyweights such as Robert Redford, Dustin Hoffman, Harrison Ford, Gene Hackman, and Paul Newman. And if you don't believe us, just watch the films for yourself. His dependable and consistently impressive body of work led film critic Roger Ebert to coin the phrase the Stanton-Walsh rule, meaning any movie featuring either Harry Dean Stanton or M. Emmet Walsh couldn't be old bad. Please welcome to the show an actor's actor and a man who says he never understood what the hell the original Blade Runner was all about. The legendary M. Emmet Walsh.
I guess I'm supposed to say thank you. I mean, it's an hour-long show, and you just took up 55 minutes. I mean,
That's it. The intros are a little lengthy, Emmet.
Yeah, they serve as an intro and an obituary.
Holy gee. It made it sound like my career is over. Thank you.
Well, it's a retrospective. You've done a lot.
Is profanity allowed on these
Absolutely. We insist on it.
Good.
Now,
who else calls you two assholes?
Lots of people.
Okay, good. Fine. I want to be in the marching crowd.
Now, can we hit on that Stanton-Walsh rule? Again, you said you've broken that rule.
No, well, what was who?
Roger Ebert.
Roger Ebert.
Right, Ebert, Cisco and Ebert. Yeah, there was a review later on, something I did, and he said I broke the rule. It wasn't watchable.
Wild Wild West.
Was that the one? Wild Wild West?
I don't know. It could have been.
Yeah.
Could have been. I have no idea. But I met them both at different. Or I talked to the guy in Chicago, the last one to die. I talked to him in Chicago one time on a radio type of thing, way back.
Ebert.
But Cisco and Ebert. Well, they were very nice to me, and a lot of people, do remember that Cisco Ebert, quote. So it's nice. What the hell?
Yeah, I think he said Stanton broke the rule with Dream a Little Dream.
Well, I don't know that. I don't know. Well, Harry Dean just died within the last year, didn't he?
Just died, yeah. Big talent. Well, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. The two of you in a movie is a sign that you're in for a decent experience.
Well, the thing is, Harry Dean. Harry Dean. I did something with him. What the hell was that one? We did a film together, huh? Was it Straight Time?
Oh, he's in Straight Time, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
Yeah. Well, Harry Dean. Yeah, Harry Dean. Harry Dean was Harry Dean. I basically don't want you to know Emmet Walsh. I want you to know a cop or a minister or a killer or the president of Princeton. And then when I say that, I get 374 letters from Princeton saying, "Get our college off your fucking lips, will you?"
You prefer to disappear into the role than somebody say, "There's Emmet Walsh."
I'm not. I'm not saying that they had come to me at some early stage and offered me tons of money to play the same character for 30 years. I wouldn't have done it. But I have fun not being Michael Emmet Walsh. And when I joined my first union, there was a Michael Walsh. There could not be two Spencer Tracy's at one time. They protect a person's name, the unions. So rather than becoming, what? Gilbert or Frank, I decided to go with my first initial and my middle name. That was supposed to be a laugh. These guys are dull.
We're being roasted by Emmet Walsh 5 minutes into the show. Yeah, I think Michael Keaton took the name Keaton because he was Michael Douglas.
No.
And I think
Michael Keaton. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It was it was well known that So when I got my first union card, which I think was Equity, the stage union in New York, and I knew I couldn't use the name. Rather than there had been a wonderful character actor back in the 30s and 40s. J. Carroll Nash.
Oh,
Yes.
sure, we know.
Yes.
And I always liked the sound of it. J. Carroll Nash. But and then I went with the M, rather than going with one of the clowns' names here or something. But no one can say M. Emmet Walsh. It scans all right. You can read it. Like Harry Dean Stanton. J. Carroll Nash has a poetic sound to it. But you can't say M. Emmet Walsh with it guts itself up. It looks okay on paper, but you can't say it out loud. So, but that's where it came from. My mother's favorite brother was Emmet Sullivan, so that's where the middle name came from.
So you took that,
and it's spelled E-M-M-E-T, the Irish way. Robert Emmet, a Nathan Hale of Ireland, who was hung by the English back in 1820 something. It was a surname. He was a Protestant. But Robert Emmet spelled it with one T. And the Irish who were uneducated and so forth, to pay homage to this great person, spelled his name wrong for the next 200 years.
Oh, man. Well, tell us what you were, before we turn the mics on, Emmett, you were telling us the story of how you're from Vermont. You came to New York against your mother's wishes.
Are you telling me the mics aren't on now?
They are now.
Yeah.
They weren't until Gilbert read his intro.
Yeah.
But you were fascinating us. You were telling us how your mother did not want you to come to New York, and you took a chance.
Oh, no. I have a degree in marketing. I have a degree in business. And my mother, lovely Irish lady. Lawrence Olivier said his mother had the wish. The way he got into theater, into acting, was his mother had the wish and never did anything with it. My father had the wish. If I picked it up from someone in the family. But my father never did it. He was a machine gunner in the First World War and all that other stuff. But I got the wish from my father. And then when I was finishing up in college, the dean of students had me in, Clarkson University now is Clarkson College up in Potsdam, New York. St. Lawrence is right next to Clarkson up there in the north. My college is only 115 miles from where I grew up in Vermont. And the dean of students had me when I was finally graduating, and I wasn't doing it in 4 years. It was taking a little bit longer than that. And he said, okay, Walsh, he said, you're going to graduate. We can't stop it. But we want you to know you're graduating with the lowest marks of anyone in 7 years.
Wow.
So that's the way Clarkson College put me out. And of course, they had me back for the 50th reunion, gave me the Golden Knight Award.
Right now that you made it, they'll take you back.
You think I did not rub their asses in it, you bastard?
Now, you received one of, the worst insults, I guess, that any man can receive. When you did Straight Time with Dustin Hoffman, in one part, Dustin Hoffman handcuffs you to a street pole.
I know where you're going here.
And he pulls your pants down. So you're there with your naked ass out. And you said at one point you turned around and you could see your dick. And that caused an argument over whether it would be an R or X rating.
Yeah, and?
Well, then, so no one wants an X rating because, you'll lose.
You've done a terrible job of setting up this line.
Yeah. Okay, so you tell it.
Jesus,
I'm telling you so you can do it.
I feel like my career's over and I came here just to do what? Anyway, at that time, any frontal nudity in a film was an automatics X-rated. Any frontal nudity. And Dustin overpowers me in the car. I'm his parole officer, taking him away to someplace, and he ends up handcuffing me to a freeway divider where my hands are up above my head, and then he pulls down my trousers. I am exposed on the freeway, and cars are going by with their honking their horns and so forth, and I'm tied there with my trousers down. At one point in there, I kind of swung towards where the camera was, which was across the freeway, and I exposed what had before just been my bare ass, so you saw it from the other side. At that time, any frontal nudity in a movie was an automatics X rating, and I was told that the committee that gives the rating to the films looked at it, saw the scene, saw me turn towards the camera, and said, that's not worth an X. The hell with it. Give him an R.
He does tell it better.
So your dick is not worth an X-ray.
Well, I've got 3 dead wives that died under mysterious circumstances that didn't complain that much, but I got sick of them.
I liked another line you said, Emmett, about tell us what people would see if you were in a movie playing Jamie Lee Curtis's lover. I thought that was very, very funny and very telling.
That's right, Jamie Lee. Yeah, I said if the movie opens up and I am Jamie Lee Curtis's husband or lover or boyfriend or something, I'm dead in 10 minutes. And then she spends the next hour and a half looking for the killer. I mean,
I love that.
Yeah, I don't stay there very long. Jamie Lee, she's a sweetheart.
She is. So you came to New York to do serious theater. You had an interest in doing Molière and Shaw and those kind of things. You didn't say I'm gonna be a character actor.
Well, intellectually, I could understand Shaw and Shakespeare and Molière, but I'd been deaf in my left ear since the time I was 3 years old. I had a mastoid operation when I was 3. Now 90% of the time they can clear that up with penicillin, but in 1938 there was no penicillin, really. And so they did an operation that more or less deafened me in my left ear. And I grew up in northern Vermont, and I did come down to New York, and I wanted intellectually to do Shaw and Shakespeare. But I said things like, Pfeffer. And they said, what? Pfeffer. And they said, what are you saying? What did you want to go and do that for? Pfeffer. And they said, gee, you want to do Shaw and Shakespeare? I said, well, they understand me at home. So that's where I started. It was obvious I wasn't going to do Shaw and Shakespeare and Moliere. My speech was just simply too bad. You couldn't go back and, kids 14 were doing Shakespeare, and I couldn't speak English. So I had to figure out if I was going to do it, what I could do that no one else could do. And that's the hard point. People go and try to become the next Pacino or the next Meryl Streep or something. They don't want that. They want something new, something different. They want you. And actors have a hard time figuring that out. So I had to figure out who I was and why what I could do, no one else could do. And that's where I started, fooling around on all that. I'm an old jock. I led it in 4 sports. I'm a par golfer, and athletically I could do anything. And I just had fun. People brought me in. Once they got onto me and figured me out, they'd say, "Well, this is terrible crap. But get Walsh, at least he makes it believable." So I
love that.
And I got a lot of those jobs. I've done 118 feature films.
It's amazing.
There's a lot of stuff out there, and I'm not ashamed of they're not all Hamlet, but I'm not ashamed of any of it. Some of it's quite interesting.
Yeah, some that we read.
And you have played, I think, what's been described as the nice villains, and it makes you even more scary that you're one of those villains with like the smile on the face and a good old boy attitude.
Yeah, well, I don't know about the ninth villain, but
I think he said nice villain.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Nice. Well, that you try to add humanity to these characters.
I finally meet someone with speech worse than mine. Thank you. The nice villain.
This is like interviewing Bob Einstein. We're being ripped apart.
No, it's I don't know, where are we?
You were talking about how you try to humanize bad guys.
No, like Blood Simple was a film I did that for the Coen Brothers, the Coen Brothers' first movie, Blood Simple, where I played the private detective that the
Visser.
scumball type of guy. And if you're playing, I learned early on, if you're playing a villain, the villain goes home and he flirts with his wife. He takes the kids out to the park. He's the nicest guy in the world. He has a bad job on the weekends, but he's not a villain. If you play a villain as a villain, it's not very interesting. Early on in the theater, you learn if the character cries, the audience doesn't. So the most interesting thing about acting a bit is to avoid the tears and let the audience cry. And most actors want to cry, type of thing. And that kind of kills it a little bit. It's I don't know if that means anything to you guys.
That's interesting.
I'm looking at you, and I said, did either one of them get out of high school? Look at that.
You flatter us. We're much older than that, Emmet. So you went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts?
For 2 years after I went down in New York.
Right.
And I didn't know anything. I said I couldn't, and somehow I had the wish. Olivier said he got the wish from his mother. I got the wish from my father. Mm-hmm. And I'd done theater in high school and college and, and so forth. I enjoyed it out on stage. Being on stage was fun for me. I was never scared of it, afraid of it. And so I went to New York, but I didn't know anything. I went to, I auditioned at a school called the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. And they take more or less anybody for the first year. Then they weed it out and invited back for the second year. I came very close, and I didn't be invited back for the second year. Now both the schools on the West Coast and the East Coast have a third year connected to it. And but that's where I would in New York when I started, you could see any play you wanted to. You put on a jacket and a tie, and you kind of hang around outside the theater at the first intermission, and they come out to have a cigarette or something, and you kind of walk in with them, and there's always an empty seat or something, and you sit. And I watched the last 2 acts of Miracle Worker, or a raisin in the sun,
Wow.
10, 15, 20 times. But I'm watching actors do this stuff, and eventually, eventually the people in the theater, the door people, they get used to, come on in, sit down, the whole thing. But I was an empty disc picking up an impression. I didn't have to unlearn something. If you're a football player and you go to Notre Dame, they spend the first 2 years unlearning what you learned in high school so you could be a decent college football player. I didn't have to unlearn anything. I was spooking it all up. And then in time, I would go to a play, and I was amazed by it all because I was a theater actor. I wasn't a movie actor, a television actor. And I'd watch and watch, and then finally I started seeing performances. And acting is beat to beat to beat with the character. And I'd see an actor do something on a given beat, and I'd say, no, that's not the way you should do that beat. And then I'd see another performance. I'd start to pick on things where before I'd been totally awed by it all. And then it became obvious that if I'm sitting in the chair in the audience, why am I not up on that stage? I said, well, how do I get my ass from here up to there if I'm so bloody smart? And that became marketing. That, I had to learn how to, if I got a chance to go meet people on something, to walk in, there would be 7 Emmet Walshes before me and 6 coming in after me. How could I win that job?
Oh, that's
with all these, And so I had to learn how to go in there, but that was the marketing background. I talked to the kids about this. I'd walk in there, and basically they give you a page or a scene, and you're reading with somebody, and there's 7 or 8 people watching, and you feel it. You know what's going on, And if you there's an instinct type of thing. And if you thought it was not going well, you'd say, I'd worked this all out before. I'd say, hey, what if this guy was, as opposed to he's written, what if he had a really bad stammer and he had trouble around people? What about that? And they said, well, show us what you mean. I'd take another. I'd say, what if this guy was, as opposed to, what if he's very hostile? Yeah, sure, I'll do that. Yeah, sure, yeah. What else you want me to do? Anything else? Yeah, sure, I'll do that. And I said, and they'd say, we hadn't thought about that. And I learned how to interview, how to audition. And also there was only me. I mean, women found me totally repulsive. So it was only me in the bar. Type of thing. So these people. I might not get the job on that end, but they remember me next time they came in.
Absolutely.
And I learned how to handle. That's marketing. I learned how to sell the product. I was the product.
How to separate yourself from the other Emmet Walshes.
And there, you can sit there in a casting call and watch people come in. And you could see people that they're thinking about the car payments, or the kid's got needs more books for college or something. They're not there. You can see that. It's you read these stories about somebody got the job in a cold interview, and it's just that they learn how to handle it. I learned how to kind of handle it, and I had a good time. And there wasn't. It was me. I could always work.
What got the ball rolling for you, Emmet? You're in a couple of plays. Was The Death of the Well-Loved Boy? Was that sort of the first legitimate role?
I was going with a girl who worked for an advertising agency, McCann Erickson.
Mm-hmm. They're still around.
She got. I don't know if they are or not.
Yeah, they are.
And she got me a job doing an Esso commercial.
Esso gas.
Esso gasoline. Now it's Chevron. I don't know what the hell it is now, but it was Esso. And just on camera talking for, 10 or 15 or 20 seconds, doing an Esso commercial. And the casting person on that gave a call to an agent, Don Buchwald, who's head of the Buchwald agency.
He's still around, too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, he's big time.
Yeah, Howard Stern's agent.
Yeah, Howard Stern's man.
Right.
And she got a hold of Buchwald, who was just getting into the agenting business, and he got a hold of me. And... and as I say, I'm a loose cannon. And I'd go for an interview, and then he'd call and said, what did Walsh do? And they say, "Hey, look at you, what you can't do," And he homed my interviewing process.
Wow.
Don was involved, and I started to make money doing commercials. So then they'd call and say, "We got a chance. There's a play they're doing off Broadway. You'd carry a spear," and I said, "Fuck you and your spears. I ain't carrying spears no more." And they only knew me as a spear carrier,
Right.
So they can't take an insult. They said, "Well, give him this, he'll fall on his face." By then, they were hiring a cannon to kill a cockroach. I was so ready that there's no way. And that's the way I started. And I started doing, I did the commercials. Then I started doing the movies because the same casting people were doing commercials on television. And the word got out. He looks good on camera. He's interesting, the whole thing. The 80% of acting, or maybe 75% of acting, can be taught. The other 20% is the gift. I had nothing to do with it. That was a gift. I did the study. I learned everything you could, and then the gift got me to the next stage.
That's interesting. The things at an audition, the way he handles an audition, because Gilbert's done some acting roles in his career, and he absolutely hates auditioning.
Well, looking at him, I can understand.
But I'm saying Emmet turned it to his advantage.
Yeah.
To separate himself from the people in the waiting room, he found a way to.
Well, the thing you got to, but this was my degree in college.
Marketing.
Business administration, marketing.
Right, came in handy.
How do you sell the product? How do you sell the product? I have. My father saw my success. He came to New York. I was doing a Broadway play and so forth, and my mother got Parkinson's, and she was in a nursing home for the last 10 years of her life, just shrinking to nothing. My mother never saw any of it, and it was what I wanted to do. It's what I figured out how to do, and I knew how to deal with money. If you live at this line, if your things are going well, you still live at this line. Mm-hmm. And if things are going poorly, the money that you saved above the line goes down here. But most actors end up, they chase the money. They're doing well, then they do very well, then they buy the 2 Cadillacs and the Mercedes and the house and the whole thing. And then when things don't go well, then they're in trouble. I always, because of the business background, learned how to handle the money I had and put it away. And normally, at this stage of my life, I have enough money not to do interviews like this.
Hilarious.
That
was a perfect payoff to that story, Emmet. So the marketing and the business background really paid off.
Yeah. In my case,
yeah, good for you.
It paid off as far as being able to live financially, and also to get parts.
To sell himself, to know how to market as the product.
And you said I think you have a quote, "I get paid to do nothing."
No, the quote is, I get paid to do what I do for nothing.
And that means...
You understand? Yeah, you understand the difference? Yeah.
Yeah. He loves it that much.
All actors will do anything. They love acting, and I get paid a lot of money. Well, now I'm either what am I, 97 or 103? I'm some. But I've had a good time. I've met interesting people, had a lot of fun with them. No one screws with me. If I walk on set or if I walk in front of the camera and you're doing a scene with me, you better damn well be good, or I'll kill you. But if you're good and you see me coming in, you are going to make sure you don't lose to me. So you end up with a tennis match.
I love that.
You say something, the ball comes back. I say something, and it goes back and back and back. And the audience is going whack, 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 whack. And that's what makes the great theater. That's what makes great acting. You really watch the tennis match going on. And no one screws around with me because they know I'm there to help the material.
Of course.
I'm not there to make an Emmet Walsh, type of thing.
Get Walsh, move the story along. I've heard you say.
Well, yeah. Well, that they're not, as they say, they're not writing movies for me. They're writing movies, watch me fall off a curb.
Could we ask you about some of the early? And did you room with William Devane at one point, Emmett?
Yeah, Devane came down from Albany. Yeah, we all started at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York, which, as I said, was a 2-year school. And anybody got it. And Bill Devane came down with another friend of his by the name of James Sloan, who was the voice of Lexus for years and years and years recently. But they came down together, and we ended up 5 in a little downstairs underneath the street apartment up on like 75th Street in Amsterdam Avenue or something, And Devane and I, and we were all together. And
good actor.
Devane got a leg up earlier. We went to school for 2 years and so forth. Devane was kind of a male lead, type of thing. I was a character person. I had to grow into my stuff. And Devane studied and worked hard in the whole thing, and he's had a very good job.
Very nice career.
Yeah, no, and everybody knows, he did John Kennedy back there,
That's
and it's
right.
still a hell of a good work. But he's done some very good films. He's always working, and he's believable.
Yeah.
No matter what it's in, that's what we learned.
Did you work with Nichols and May back in those days too?
I did a play, and that's curious. Thank you. I did a play. I did a play that Elaine May wrote, and Mike Nichols directed up in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. It might have been called A Matter of Position, but I'm not sure what it was. But all good character people from New York, and we're up in Stockbridge, Mass. And that's where I met Elaine and Michael.
Right.
And I've dealt with Elaine afterwards. Mike.
You were in Mikey and Nicky.
Mike, and the other guy, the male, whoever we're talking about.
Mike Nichols.
Mike Nichols. Mike Nichols had me in a movie or two, too.
Yeah.
And, the thing is, what happens with a casting situation or a director or something, they say, look at there's 130,000 members of the Screen Actors Guild. 130,000 members. They'll say, look at, I only want to see 10 people. Now, how do you get ahead of all those people to be one of the 10 that gets in to see somebody? And that's what the
daunting.
Hell? Yeah, and so I was I auditioned well, and I met Mike well, and they would simply say, okay, we got Walsh for this. That takes care of that problem. Now let's see who we can get for the girl. I would a problem solve. They didn't have to worry about spending 2 days cats and nest. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah. But I'm interested in those early days because you were in Midnight Cowboy with John Schlesinger, Alice's Restaurant with Arthur Penn. I mean, looking back.
Arthur Penn
directed.
I did a play. Arthur Penn did a play up in Stockbridge, and that's where he met me. Maybe it might have been the Elaine May play. And then after that, when Arthur gave me, Arthur brought me up for... What was that movie?
Alice's Restaurant.
Alice's Restaurant.
Yeah.
I played the sergeant in Group W, I think, or something. Yeah, or something. But Arthur Penn, there was a thank you for what I'd done in the play, type of thing. But it goes back to what I said. If you're casting something and you've got 12 problems, if they got me, they only had 11 problems. And that was I would take care of whatever it was they needed. And they didn't have to. They could go on with something. I don't want you. I said before to see a Michael Emmet Walsh. I want you to see the Garbage Collector.
Right.
And they knew that I wasn't going to do anything other than the Garbage Collector for them. And it solved the problem.
We always, like on this show, both of us always admired the character actors because.
Yeah, we've had some good ones here. Bruce Dern and Steve Buscemi's been here.
And it's like, because when you see a movie, you'll go, wow, Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep were great. And you forget the great character actors, because you'll go, oh, that was a doctor in that scene or a cop. And you believe it's a doctor or a cop. You're not going, oh, that's a great performance.
Well, that's what character acting is about. Yeah. That's what look, look, we're talking about. I'm a stage actor. I started out in the stage. I never thought in terms of movies and television. I just thought if I could ever make a living as an actor on stage, that would be wonderful. And I did get to that, but I never saw that what happened when I was on film. I never had anything to do with that. That's the gift. I mean, the acting, I said before, is 75%. The gift is what, Vanessa Redgrave had she walked on film and you said, wow, you couldn't watch anything else. There are other actors like that. You say, wow, they just burn it. They just burn the film. And so I was given the gift of, I can walk on stage and people would watch me. I could walk on film and people watch me. Those are the gifts. You don't always get it in both cases. But, come on, that's luck. That's luck. And also, I might have just stayed home and ran a bar, type of thing.
Yeah. I'm glad you didn't.
And I remember I'd heard this quote once before, and I forget the exact quote. Olivier said something about the angels.
Okay, before you ruin that quote. Olivier said, there are nights in the theater when the gods seem to come and sit on your shoulders.
That's great.
But on the nights when the gods don't come, the audience does.
Oh, that's profound. So they're there either way. Whether you have it or not, they're there.
The guy next to you understand that at all? He sits there really
He's fascinated.
but that's the Olivier's quote, and it is true.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you open the play, and opening night you're dynamic. The great line in the theater is watch the second night. That's when it goes right in the toilet. You're so high for the opening, the second night just goes, and. I did something with Henry Fonda one time, and one of Fonda's things was like he did Mr. Roberts for a year or more or something on Broadway, and you're going out there 8 times a week. Basically you don't do anything from noon on. Just your energy is all getting ready for that curtain to go up at 8 o'clock at night. If you're going to do anything, you do it afterwards. All theater bars, you drink and you eat after the show. You don't go in there with a full stomach. But on the nights when Fonda, didn't know anybody out in the audience, because if somebody comes back after a show and you say, Tony, why didn't you tell me you were out there? Because you knew you would have done it different if you'd known Tony was out there. Fonda would go when he knew nobody, and he played for over a year. Those plays, he would look through the peephole in the curtain. And he'd say, see that woman in the 5th row, 2 seats in, with the pink hat? He said, that's the one. And he'd do the performance for her, like it was his mother. So he wouldn't be gray, so he wouldn't be sloppy. And she never knew, but it prevented him from slipping.
Wow.
He'd come off the stage, he said, come on, fellas, that was a damn 83. No, we were 87 last night. Come on, let's get it back up there. He would grade them. He wouldn't let.
Wow.
But that was the great stage actors.
What a pro.
Well, yeah. Well, now you ask someone to do a play, they won't do it more than 10 weeks or something. It's they get bored. The whole thing before that was theater. You couldn't get bored. Life with Father. Ran for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, all the way through the Second World War. Harold Lindsay and his wife. But
these people put their time in. Well, we're talking about money. Let's talk about Blood Simple, because did you have the brothers pay you in cash when you took the gig?
They're trying to get the IRS on me.
I don't know nothing about that.
Hello to Mike, by the way, who Emmet is playing to.
When I was doing Silkwood with Meryl Streep,
right,
in Dallas, and I got a call. From my agent at the time, and I had heard that they had turned a couple things down that were being offered to me or something, and I never heard about it. And I got totally pissed. I said, I want to read everything. I want to see everything. You don't turn anything down without me seeing it. So I'm down there, and I get this script from these two brothers down in Austin, Texas. Joe and Ethan Cohen.
Yep.
And they came out of Minnesota. Joe was a theater major at NYU. Ethan was a Princeton graduate, philosophy or something. So I get this script, and it's blood simple, and it all takes place at night. It's very hard to shoot at night. There's it's hard to get any depth. That's tough to do, and I slink around with this suit, this Panama suit, and this hat, and the whole thing, and it was interesting. I said, look, I can take this character and. Like a Sidney Greenstreet, and I can work it out, and then 20 years' time, when I'm old enough, I can do it in a real movie, So
you didn't have a lot of faith.
Yeah. I'd flush it out because nothing could come of this thing. And I told the agents, I said, go see what they got. And the agent came back and said, they'll give you 1% of the profits. I said, I have a degree in business administration from college. 1% of zero is zero. I mean, what the fuck are we talking about? and the agent comes back the next day and said, they'll give you 2% of the gross. I said, you went from profits to gross in one day? I said, it's still going to be nothing. No one's ever going to see the fucking film. But I own part of the film. I get checks on it all the time.
I love that.
From Blood Simple. And so I went down. I met the Coen brothers down there, in Austin. And they had this little film they'd made up and so forth. And I'm up there doing Silkwood with Merrill, and I'd go down to Austin for a week or two. And they had it right down to the very nth degree. They had been working on it for 2 years. They raised their $300,000 or $400,000, and they had the whole thing. And I went down and the first time I'm there, I think I was getting $500 a day in expense money. So they gave me a check, and I don't know who you guys are. I don't want your check. So they came back and gave me 5 $100 bills. So I put them in my pocket. Then week after week after week. And finally, I got a wad going out, and I know everybody's looking at my pocket, and I'm going to get mugged. I put them in the ice cube tray. The whole didn't know what to do.
You're hiding money.
I had created my own monster. I was paranoid. But I did their thing, and Joe would, they kind of looked through the camera together. Joe was the director, but Ethan, they're just talk together. And Joe would say, I want you to go over there. And I say, well, what if I look this way? And they said, no, we can't afford that. And then I'd say something, and I'd say, what if I do? He said, and Joe, one of the great lines where Joe said, just humor me, Emmet, will you please? Just humor me. And that became one of them. And at one point in there, when I was up working on Silkwood, he gave me a call and said, do you smoke? I said, no, I'm not a smoker. He said, can you blow a smoke ring? And I said, I'm not a smoker. And he said, would you work? We want you, Danny Hidea, is a guy the whole thing in the bar, a bar owner. And he said, so I tried to, and they wanted me to blow smoke rings. And I have the cigar, I'm trying to do it, and all I did was get sick. And I called back and I said, I can't, that's not working. He said, don't worry, we got a machine, we got the whole thing solved. So I go down and I'm talking to Danny, and Danny's there, and I want to piss him off, and I blow a smoker right at his face, right going across him, and really pissed the character, really pissed Danny off. And they got this billows right beside my ear. But the smoke rings keep breaking. They don't stay together long enough. And they're getting, because it's important within the frame of what they wanted to do. And finally, a little makeup girl, they just hired her. She was her first job. And she said, give me that goddamn cigar. She said, I used to smoke Silkwood with my 4 brothers out behind a barn. And she took the cigar, pow, she blasted it.
Wow.
One after the other. Boom, boom. I mean, beautiful, And you gotta inhale the whole thing to get it right, She blasted them out, and they boom, boom, boom. We got the whole scene. And I'm saying, well, this is what low-budget movies are all about. And I went about 2 hours later. We were in a roadhouse outside of Dallas. There's Austin, I guess. And there she is sitting on the steps, just puking her guts out. She'd given her life for this fucking movie.
I love that.
But
something to tell her grandkids.
I ran into her within the last 5 or 10. She's still in the business. She's a prop lady, and she stayed in all the way.
Now,
but I think, did I answer the question?
Yeah, and then some.
Oh, good for me.
Now, a question I wanted to ask you, being a stage actor, doing the same dialogue night after night, do you find yourself going into autopilot, and what do you do about that?
Well, I'd mentioned before about Henry Fonda.
Yeah.
Like if you know somebody's out in the audience, you really, you don't want to do a bad one.
Yeah.
Every audience plays differently. Why does somebody go out and fish on the Gulf or on Lake Champlain or something? There's something about fishing. It's not that you catch a bass and a bass. They play you differently. Each audience plays you differently. They miss this laugh. Why is that? What do we do? Then you try to make sure you don't miss the next one. You can sense the audience. You're playing them. And that becomes the life of it. There's also the pride of the business. You don't want an audience to hate you. You want an audience that loves you, and you've got to do the play. And if they're not responding in the right places, you try to find out why and get them back in the other places. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You don't look that smart.
Well, he's not. Well, he's a stand-up, Emmett. He does stand-up three or four nights a week. So you must have a similar experience. Why didn't the audience laugh at the joke they laughed at last night?
Oh, my God, yeah.
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 Why is that audience different?
It's like sometimes a joke that kills in the first show, in the second show, they're staring at you.
Mysterious.
Yeah. So your question had nothing to do with me. It had something to do with
Well, by the way, the picking up the hat little business in Blood Simple. I know you've been asked this. That was your invention. That was your bit of business.
I'm not sure. I at one time I might have said it was, but I'm not sure. It could. The Coen brothers are so fucking smart. I mean, no one does a first movie and have it like the Blood Simple. I mean, there are hundreds of movies made by people that you never hear about. Never a word.
Absolutely.
And Visser, my character, had an image of himself. Obviously, that was part of it. But he just went through the whole pounding of the wall, getting his hands, the
knife in the hand,
and the whole thing, and pounding the wall to get the knife out and the whole thing. And during all that, my hat had fallen off. Whatever the white thing was, the Western hat that I had on.
Yeah.
And then he gets his hand back. He turns around, and he's totally wiped. He turns around and he's looking towards the door where he thinks whoever is involved, he's going to come get them. And he looks at then he looks down and goes out of frame, comes back up and puts the hat on.
It's a great moment.
Now, yeah, and I with hindsight, I like to think I might have thought of that because it was part of the character, but the Coen brothers might have thought of it too. I'm not sure.
It's a great performance.
Yeah, well, it's a good performance. I won an award for it.
You deserved
it. It was the first Spirit Award, the Independent Spirit Award. Meryl Streep got who am I talking about? Got it for Trip to Bountiful. She got the first female award, and I got the first.
Oh, out of Africa. Yeah.
No.
Is she in Trip to Bountiful? Doesn't matter.
No, I didn't say out of it. I said Trip to Bountiful. Who in hell was in that?
Geraldine Page.
Yeah. Well, Geraldine got it for for that performance, and I got it for Blood Simple. That were the first 2 acting awards for the Spirit Awards. After that, now they got about 17 different categories. But also the producer was there. We had a little function when they gave out the first Spirit Awards, at some little restaurant in Hollywood. And the producer was there, and he was going to go up and get the award for, best film. And he panicked at the last minute. He said, Emmet, you do it. So I went up, and they're giving this award for the best independent feature film. And I said, Rocky 2 just opened on 1,900 screens around the country. At no time during the run of Blood Simple were there 10 prints.
Wow.
And that's what a low-budget film was.
Right.
Isn't that wild? Stick your finger up the wrong person's ass? A friend of mine a while back broke his hand and put in a cast. Very next day he falls, protects his bad hand, and he breaks his good one. So now he breaks that too, fall. So now he's got 2 busted flippers, So I said to him, Creighton, I hope your wife really loves you, because for the next 5 weeks you can't even wipe your own goddamn ass. That's a test, ain't it? Test of true love.
I got a job for you.
Well, if it pays right and it's legal, I'll do it.
It became its own life and
Sure,
so forth.
but it's more than made its money back now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
Yeah, and then
it's
some.
It's made money for me. And of course, the Coen brothers, every time the Coen brothers do a new movie, they mention Blood Simple. So it's kept my career going.
And you showed up in the next one, too, in a wonderful little cameo.
Well, I
in
talked
Raising
them into
Arizona.
that. They weren't interested. And I remember I took them to the Players Club in New York I belonged to at the time.
Uh-huh.
And I took them to lunch down there. And I said, look, I'll do anything. And that was Raising Arizona.
Yeah, it was, your moment is great.
And I said, I'll do anything. And they didn't. They said, okay, well, let them do this. So I went to Phoenix or something, and they did every time Nicolas Cage gets out of jail, he's in the same shot.
It's great. Bill Parker.
Talk about finding this guy's head on the freeway.
It's fantastic.
Now, you worked with someone whose name has popped up on this show a bunch of times, Herschel Bernardi.
Oh, you were in Arnie. Do you have any memory of doing that show? He was a blacklisted actor.
Yeah, well, I've worked with other blacklisted actors too. I'm trying to think who, but that'll come to me. I knew him. We did the show. He had the series and so forth.
You did a fair amount of TV in those days too.
I was doing TV before I was doing movies.
Yeah, your Jimmy Stewart show. You did the Don Rickles show. As my reputation for doing these, these non-sequential parts and little things became known, that it helped the thing along. Mm-hmm. My reputation grew, and they kept getting me to do other things to help along. But I knew, I did this show with him. I don't remember that. Who did that Detective Story? Got an Oscar for it. Lee Grant.
Lee Grant.
Yeah,
Lee Grant was blacklisted.
Yeah, we had her on this show.
Yeah, Lee Grant was, wonderful.
Yeah.
She's in her 90s now.
Yes, she lives a few blocks from here.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart.
She is.
We're doing a play in Stockbridge, Mass. Lee Grant was playing, it was a new play by, and they're doing a workshop of it. She played with Bill Devane and Lee Grant, and I come in. It's set in the country or something, type of thing. And it was a workshop, and we were there for 2 weeks rehearsal or something. And there was a little nightclub in, I don't know, away from Stockbridge. I can't think of the name of the town. But you'd go down with the music. You'd go down these stairs to get into it, the whole thing. And we're getting smashed like we always did. And we're leaving there. And Lee Grant, Devane's going up, and Lee Grant's behind him, and I'm right behind Lee Grant, and I'm right there, and there's her rear facing right at me, and the tight little ass, and the whole thing. It looks, and I kind of reached up and squeezed it, and as I squeezed it, I said, "Oh, I'm in big trouble." and she stopped, and she looked down at me, and she said, "Thank you."
Great story.
Oh, I know.
We have to ask Lee about that. I just saw her a couple of weeks ago. I just had the pleasure of having dinner with her a couple of weeks ago. She's great.
Tell her, because I watched her do a session at the Actors Studio 4 or 5 years ago. But
I'll say hi for you.
I think she's 93 years
She is.
now.
You were in Airport 77 with her, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. And she said things to me there too. She said, "Don't do this or don't." She's giving advice to a young actor.
Mm-hmm.
She's and we've been friends for a long time.
She's lovely.
She's sweet.
Of those people that you played the tennis match with on screen, the Pacinos and the Redfords and the Beattys and the Paul Newmans, was there somebody that you particularly enjoyed going back and forth with more than others? You worked with Hoffman more than a couple of times.
Yeah, I don't really.
Paul Newman in Slapshot.
I think I did another movie with Paul. Maybe
Twilight.
Yeah, Twilight Zone. Or something. Not Twilight.
Twilight.
Or something. Was it Twilight?
Yeah.
And Paul, I was there, and I'm working with these big people, and I'm just Emmet Walsh, and I was there, and they knew I was helping. And I appreciated helping, and none of them ever came at me. I mean, anybody that did, there were only 2 or 3 that ever tried, And
what does that mean? They tried to best you in the scene. They tried to.
Oh, they tried. They thought they could take it, And
I see.
They're in the unmarked part of the cemetery now, But in answer to your question, no, they were all just wonderful, and I was there to help. And it was a tennis match. We hit the ball, back and forth in the eye, and it worked. And that's why I was brought in. They were good people. They, I didn't have. Who did I mention to you about the guy that changed all the dialogue, the television actor? What was his name? I can't think of it. The Star Beretta. Huh?
Robert Blake?
Yeah, Robert Blake. Robert Blake, he did Beretta, and I was brought in to do a Beretta type of thing at one time. And there was a lot of dialogue. So learning dialogue has nothing to do with acting. It's a mechanical stunt. You get it out of the way. Then the acting happens. So if I'm ever around actors who haven't learned it, they don't even know the first step of acting, type of thing. So I had a whole bunch of dialogue. I get it all done. I come in to do this Beretta with Robert Blake, and he comes in to my dressing room, or I went to his, and we read the scene over. He said, yeah. And because I'm ready to hammer it, I'm going to kill it. And a few minutes later, his assistant comes to me and says, here, give me a script. Bobby wants to change this and this and this and this. And he'd take a sentence out of a paragraph, like suddenly Bobby Blake didn't learn it. He was just trying to get through the job, but he wasn't going to let some actor come in and make him look bad. He was going to make sure they looked bad also.
Wow.
You get me on that one?
Yeah.
And that's I learned that one. You can't win. They'll switch it around.
That's fascinating.
I know it. I'm fascinated.
Emmet, I got a couple of questions from listeners, if you'll indulge me. These are a couple of questions from guests. There's a guy named Robert Martin, a listener, wants to know, do you have any memories of filming a movie with Jason Robards called Raise the Titanic?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I knew Jason for a long time. I knew him in New York. As a matter of fact, he was doing Little Big Man, I think it was, or something. I don't know, maybe it was. He was doing a Broadway play, and they taught us in New York, hang out where the actors hang out, go where the actors go. So, like, I was in the Broadway softball league, I was in the Broadway bowling league.
Oh,
they get used to seeing you.
You really are a jock.
Yeah, I am a jock. I'm a par golfer. Then you'd go to the bar afterwards, after the show, and you'd drink with him and the whole thing. And I knew Jason for a long time, and I do a lot of barroom poetry, the Robert Service and Casey and the whole thing. I learned it all as a kid, and Jason and I were drinking one time, and he said, "Hey, I got the Kid's Last Fight on a cassette." That was a famous poem about two guys that grew up together, went a different way, then they suddenly end up fighting together, and neither one wants to hurt the other guy. But the whole thing was called "The Kid's Last Fight." It's a great little poem. So Jason and I go up to his apartment in the Dakota, around 76.
Oh yeah, sure.
And he was married to Lauren Bacall then, And we go in there and we're drunk as fiddlers, bitches. And he's over there trying to put the needle,
Drunk as fiddlers.
trying to put the needle on the and Lauren Bacall comes out with a broom. And she starts beating the shit out of me. You drunken bum. So I went back a long time with Jason.
I love that.
But we did, what was the film?
Raise the Titanic.
Raise the Titanic.
Yeah.
Well, Jason and I are flying over to Greece, from L.A., I guess. Mm-hmm. And we're in first class, of course. We're flying all night or something. And Jason's sitting with me, I guess, in a seat. And I think his wife is with the two kids in the seat in front of us or something. And Jason said, "You know what I'm proud of?" I said, "No." He said, "See those two kids?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "They never saw me drunk. They never saw me drunk."
Wow.
And that's what Jason was proud of.
Wow.
And he didn't drink anymore. Once he stopped. But he crashed himself up on the freeway, wrapped his face all up.
Yeah.
Took him over a year and a half before he went back to work. But he was very proud of that.
Wow.
But Jason was a good guy.
That's quite a story.
But I knew him on both sides. I knew him on the drunk side and the side. And what the hell?
I heard you say that Clean and Sober was material that you were attracted to because you came from, you knew drinking.
Well, I'm an old drunk. I was a periodic. My father was an alcoholic. He was a U.S. Customs officer on the border, and I grew up with AA. Around it. My father, it never clicked with my father until he'd finally buried everybody. Then there was nothing to do but go talk about it. And and it became one of the legendary speakers in AA back in Vermont there.
Oh.
But they, that's basically what happens with alcoholics, eventually can't take it. And, the whole family was the Irish on both sides, they're performers, that type of thing. And I came out of that. And your question initially started, this was what?
Oh, I was just saying how, and it's a great performance in Clean and Sober. You were attracted to the material.
Because I was a drunk.
Yeah.
And the surprise of the whole thing on Clean and Sober, it opens with a monologue of just camera on me doing the whole thing, and my background, I was never AA, but I was a drunk, and my father was AA. My whole idea was not to make them look bad, type of thing. And then when I saw the movie, I realized it made me look like an asshole as opposed to someone that really believed in what he was up to with the AA thing.
Interesting.
As I recall, there's some in there. But I'm very much, if you don't know how to drink, what the hell?
In Clean and Sober, there's a scene where you're in a diner and you have a bowl of chocolate ice cream, a chocolate cake, and a chocolate ice cream shake.
Yeah. Okay, I'll tell you what that's all about. With my background in AA, Alcoholic Anonymous, what they try to do is substitute one addiction for the other addiction. See, so if you were a drunk, you'd try to get them into macrame, or say you'd try to get them spending this time, and I was a drunk talking to Michael Keaton. I got him over there. We're in this diner, and I said, "Tell me your story." And Michael's going on, and he's filling in with his own lies and everything. And I was the alcoholic, interviewing him, doing the whole thing, and I had substituted food or sugar or ice cream or something for my addiction.
Right.
And that's what they do. And I just kept it going. I remember the whole cast and the whole crew went crazy because we shot for a day and I did nothing but eat ice cream, and got obviously in time incredibly sick. But I wanted to show that that's what the alcoholic person was. That he, you understand me on this a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
What am I doing?
Yeah.
What am I doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't like it? He said none of this has been recorded. He just changed the mind. So basically what I was trying to do is, while I'm listening to Michael, and he's going through all the lies that alcoholics would, boom, 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 boom. Then he says the one thing that I jump on, which was, the girl had died in his bed, of the whole thing, what it was.
Right.
But I wanted the reformed alcoholic to show. And of course, I've had alcoholics come to me and say that really, really nailed it. That's what it was all about. Type of thing, that it wasn't an actor. It was, that's what an AA does.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is there a moment, Emmett, when you're rapping for the day? Is there a moment where you say, "I know I nailed that, that it felt right," or is there always a degree of uncertainty until you see the finished product?
I can look at my work and from 30, 40 years ago and say, yeah, he did that pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Type of thing. I didn't phone it in. I worked hard on everything I did, type of thing. But I have people who are not my biggest fans. There are people at company that are not. They didn't like that or they didn't like this.
Really?
Like that. Yeah. The ones that I let live.
Did you have a disagreement with Ridley Scott when you were making Blade Runner? Something about him making you smoke? You threatened to hang him by his balls. Do I have this right?
You guys can take good stories and really ruin them.
Okay, I fucked that one up.
Really, we on Blade Runner, we Harrison and
Ridley.
We're in a room and I'm showing film.
Right.
Of the Blade Runners that are they've gotten out or something, and Harrison is there.
The replicants.
The replicants, and showing film of the replicants, and Ridley says at some point, "Would I smoke?" So I start smoking, and we go on and we're shooting, and get incredibly sick, and it's a lot of Ridley shoots a lot. He shot a lot of film, and I'm getting sicker and sicker. And Alan Ladd Jr. was one of the producers on it, and I wasn't aware of it. And there are people who come in behind the camera and watch for a while. Go,
Sure.
No one watches a movie very long being shot if they're a civilian. It's so boring. And Alan Ladd came in and the whole thing, and at some point Ridley did something, and I said, "Shit," I got sick or something. I said, "You ought to be fucking hung from the ceiling by the balls and twisted slowly from left to right." And Ridley says, I feel that way a lot anyway. And Alan Ladd Jr. had me pulled off my next movie.
Wow.
He whatever it was I'd been hired for. Something with Michael Keaton's first movie or something, one of his early films. And he had me pulled off it. And then Ridley, we had to change dialogue, how many replicants there were. We kept changing and changing and changing. I'd come back in 3 months and come back and, and at one point, one of the producers on...
Bud Yorkin.
Bud Yorkin is in there, and I'm redoing a couple lines, not on camera, redoing the lines. And I know he'd do it, the number of replicants and that kind of shit. And I said, Bud, I'm going to be back. And Bud said, you're not coming back. That's it. I said, no, there's going to be a change other than now. And this is we're an hour and a year and a half into the movie. Not even get close. Ridley's, And I said, and we ended up betting $10, And a couple of months later, I get a call from Ridley Scott saying, what the fuck did you say to Bud Yorkin? He said, I need you in the fucking film, and he won't let me have you. He said, what the fuck's going on? It was the $10. It was the $10. So he had to. So I came in and did it, and there was an envelope with a $10 bill in it. But that was the number of replicants in the whole thing, But Ridley, good guy.
Makes some great films.
Yeah, he lost his brother. That's all sad.
Yes, that's tragic. One more question I have here just from a listener. I know you're shocked that we have anybody listening to the show, Emmet, but Ray Gustini has a question about The Jerk. He says the phrase "die milk face" has long been a part of his daily parlance. Those things that you're yelling at Steve Martin's character when you're the crazy sniper in The Jerk, what was scripted and what was improvised by you? How much of that stuff?
We're shooting in a shooting gallery underneath the house.
Right.
That's where I'm practicing. That's where all that's where all that dialogue is.
Right.
Type of thing. The what was who was
Carl Reiner. Carl Reiner.
Yeah. Who wrote it? Did Carl wrote it?
I think it was Carl and Carl Gottlieb.
Yeah. They great freedom with Carl. You think of how to do it, then you think of how to maybe do it and do it, that type of thing all around. And how the dialogue came up or something, if he gave it to me or else I kept, the stupid profanities and all. But
you say die milk face.
I wouldn't, I won't take it away from Carl. I might be saying all his dialogue. I might have added a couple of mine.
Yeah.
Dead sinner and say your prayers, half-breed.
Hey, Harry, look at this. What's the matter with these cans?
Die, milk face!
These cans are defective. They're springing leaks. Come over here, look at this.
Listen, you better run for cover. You're gonna spring a leak.
Huh?
We don't have defective cans. We have a defective person out there.
He hates these cans. Stay away from the cans.
Die, gas pumper!
I gotta get away from those cans.
You're very funny. I mean, I want to say too that at some point you talk about having a gift. But in scenes like in movies like Fletch and The Jerk, you seem to have, and Raising Arizona certainly, you seem to have a natural way with comedy.
Well, I'm not a comedic actor. I'm an actor. I'm an Irishman, so they're it's goddamn. If they look in the mirror and you're an Irishman, you gotta laugh. But no, I had the gift. I have the gift, and I got lucky. But there are a lot of people that never get lucky, but I've had a grand time, and
it's a great body of work, Emmet.
There, like who's the guy now doing the one about the costumer, the movie that's out now, the up for an Academy Award. You know who I'm talking. You know what I'm talking about.
Which costumer?
Oh, he's a dresser. Come on. But he said it's his last movie. He'll never do another movie.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
he's burned out.
Yeah.
He's done some great work.
He's quit several times.
He's playing a lot of different people. But, I don't know how old he is. He's probably 60, 65. But he's had it. I've never had it. It's always fun. It's always, let me go out and see what I can get away with.
I love that.
But then again, he's playing major roles. I'm just walking in for 2 or 3 days.
This is a quote from you. You said when I get to 100 movies, I guess I die. but now 100 and 108 and counting, you're still here.
It's 118.
118 and you're still working.
Still working.
And I look at your IMDb page today, and I see you've got 4 or 5 films in production and things in pre-production.
No, I don't think they're in production. What's the one that's coming out that I got it's opening a film festival?
Yeah, give us a plug.
A change in the air.
Okay.
Olympia Dukakis plays my wife. I don't know if she says who plays her husband, but I'm using her.
I saw that indie you were in with Christopher Plummer from a couple of years ago too. It was excellent.
Well, that was interesting.
Very good. Man in the Chair.
What was it?
Man in the Chair.
Man in the
You were the retired screenwriter living in the nursing home.
I did a scene with the guy that Natalie Wood.
Oh, Robert Wagner's in it. Yeah,
they're picking on him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good film.
Yeah, no, the Man in the Chair was interesting.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Very good.
Chris was interesting. A nice man.
To work with Christopher Plummer.
But he grew up in Montreal. That's only 60 miles from me.
That's right. He's a Canadian.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yes, he is. Yeah. Okay, you guys had it?
You got anything else for this man before we let him go and get on with his life?
How much editing do you have to do this? I mean, we've been here for 7 hours.
A little bit. We're about done. I just wanted to say I heard you.
Do you cut after this? Do you cut it down? Someplace?
Yeah, we'll cut it down. We'll trim it down a little bit, not much, because people want to hear from you, Emmett.
Can you send me a cassette of this?
We're going to send you the link, and I'm going to send. And I also want to say that Emmett is the only guest that ever sent gifts before he was a guest on the show. He sent me a trading card from Wild Wild West. He sent me a $2 bill. Not sure what he was trying to tell me with that one. You want to ask this man anything else?
No, I guess I'll. Okay, I'll.
He's going to rap.
If you let me know where you're performing when I'm in New York, I won't go into that area.
Have you ever seen his act?
No, I don't want to.
I dare say I think you'd enjoy it.
All right.
I have a quote here from you, Emmett. You said for a guy from a small town, you didn't do badly.
I was senior class president in high school.
10
girls and 3 boys.
You did.
I mean, I'd come from the big time.
You did pretty well. And thanks for doing this. I know it was a schlep, and thanks to Mike Gargano for making it happen.
Well, thank Mike because, he just became my enemy.
So Gilbert's going to wrap up.
Well, I'm Gilbert Gottfried, and this has been Gilbert Gottfried's amazing Colossal podcast with my co-host Frank Santopadre, and we have been talking to one of the kings of the great character actors, Emmet Walsh.
Emmett, keep going. Never retire.